Hello and welcome to Self-Help Today. My name is Melissa Coakley, and with me here is RAFAEL Santandreu, one of Spain's leading psychologists and author of the best-selling book, Shake It Off. Hello, RAFAEL.
Hello.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Today you're here to talk to us about mental control. So you assert that what's wrong with us is our thoughts. We're mental beings, and a person in control of their thoughts is in control of their happiness. And you say that this idea comes from the philosopher Epictetus. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Epictetus, to me, is maybe the best philosopher ever. Epictetus lived in the 1st century in Rome, and he was born as a slave. His parents were slaves, but he chose to be happy even being a slave. Why? Because he could do good things for himself and others, study, and in fact, he studied, he got an education, and he got his liberty, and he opened a school of philosophy in Rome at that time, and became the most successful philosophy at that time. But he did it because he had a great inner dialogue. The cognitive psychology, which is the therapy that I practice, comes from from Stoicism, which is the school of philosophy that Epictetus practiced. Epictetus said once a tremendous sentence, a fantastic sentence, revolutionary. It's revolutionary sentence. He said, "What affects us in life is not what happens to us, is what we tell ourselves about this."
Okay.
It's what we tell ourselves. I'll give you an example. Sometimes I have listened for instance, somebody that says, "Pete gets on my nerves." And I always say, no, this is incorrect. It's impossible. What happens is that Pete does something, then you tell yourself, I cannot stand this. And now you get on your nerves, but it's something you do with yourself. It's what Epictetus said. It's not what happens to us. It's what we tell ourselves. And this is the key of mental control, because if you control your thoughts, your inner dialogue, things are not going to disturb you that much. It's in your thoughts. Everything is in your thoughts, what you tell yourself.
That's fascinating. But I have to say, there are things that have the effect of making us depressed.
Only a few, Melissa. Only if you are about to die, or something like this, or there is a tiger in front of you. If not, no, things don't have the power to disturb you. What happens is that we tell ourselves the opposite. Normally, most of problems people have are trivial. For instance, I would tell you, if someone leaves you, your partner, this is trivial. It's not the end of the world. It's not something. You don't need your partner to do fantastic things for yourself and the others. What would Epictetus tell you about this? That is the end of the world. You need the partner to be right. He lived as a slave for the most part of his life. So no, there are few things that can really disturb you, and are things that have to do with life and death. The rest of things, you can solve it. They are problems that you can solve it or not, but it's not the end of the world. It's all in your thoughts.
So in other words, starting now, we should only say positive things to ourselves when we're faced with difficult situations. Is that right?
Not really, because Melissa, cognitive psychology or Stoicism from Epictetus don't say, don't advise that you have to tell yourself nice things only. No, because even I would say that cognitive psychology is not positive psychology. It's rational psychology, which means that bad things happen. Adversities happen all the time. I won't say the opposite, but those are little problems, always little problems, and you can choose to fix them or not. If you do, great, enjoy it. If you don't, accept it. Nothing happens. In reality, you can still be happy, which is different. So we have problems, but they are not the end of the world. It is a difference.
In your book, you tell the story of Maria Luisa Merlo, who is an excellent example of mental control. Can you tell us her story?
Yes. Maria Luisa Merlo is an actress from Spain, very famous in Spain. She's about 80. And some years ago, I read a book, autobiography from her, by her. And she explained on that book that for the most part of her life, she was very unhappy. She was very prone to depression, to anxiety, and she even took drugs to escape from all of this. But when she was around 50, a friend of hers took her to a group therapy. And she went every week, and little by little, she started to learn a new inner dialogue, a new philosophy of life. And in the books, she says something very nice and important. She says, at the age of 50, I learned to be happy.
Oh, that's nice.
And very important because that means that everyone can learn to be happy at any point of his life or her life. Anybody can do it. So I think this is very important.
All right. Another case that you talk about in the book is of a young man who was afraid of the devil.
Oh, yes.
Can you tell us more about that?
This is another nice story. Some time ago, I had a patient, young patient around 25 years old, and he came and he told me that he was intelligent, cultured person, but he came and said to me that sometimes when he was alone at home, he had the thought that the devil could appear there. And he was afraid, all night he was afraid of this silly idea, but he had this idea. And this young guy was Christian, but not fanatic or the like, no. But he had this silly idea. And then I remember that I told him the following. Look, if the devil appeared to me anytime, I would be very happy, not scared, just the opposite. Why? Because I would be the only person in the world to know that the afterlife really exists. Nobody knows, and I would. What a privilege. Incredible.
Sure.
Also, I would ask him questions because I had the opportunity to know a lot from him, from the devil. I would ask him, how is hell? Do you have sex there? Have you thought of retiring? Because you've been doing this too much time, no? And also, I wouldn't be afraid because if the devil exists, also God exists, and I'm on his side. on the side of the strong one.
Okay.
So I don't have any reason to be afraid because I'm with the. He would defend me, So I told him all this story.
Okay.
And I remember that he came back the next day telling me, Rafael, I don't have this fear anymore because you were right. There's no reason to be afraid. So this is an example how we get depressed or anxious or stressed out because of ideas that we have.
Okay.
And with other ideas, we got cured. We get well.
So you're saying that any thoughts that you have that can take pressure off of you or give you peace so that you can stay calm in a difficult situation, those are good.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because we always get neurotic because of thoughts, because of pressure that we put on ourselves. Mm-hmm. And we have to take it off. And we can do it. So we can invent any idea, any argument mm-hmm. that can take this pressure off. No, it's you have to find them and believe them and change your way of thinking. No?
Okay.
There are many examples that I could give you. No? For instance, if a person is afraid of public speaking, mm-hmm. which is very common.
Sure.
This is because his philosophy makes him think that this is super important. If I fail in a public speech, it would be a disaster. Uh-huh. My image would be so bad. And think in another way. I mean, you don't need to do it well. I mean, who cares about this? You can work in something else. You can do other things. Most of people don't give speeches. Just they work on things, but they don't do it. So you have to find arguments that take the pressure off you and convince you absolutely of them.
And Rafael, you also talk a lot about how people overreact to infidelity. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes. Yes, because being mad, being bad, feeling bad about infidelity is a good example. Because once I had a patient called Rocío mm-hmm. that was, she was bad because her husband had been unfaithful okay. for a time. And after a time, he stopped doing it and she had forgiven him, mm-hmm. but she couldn't forget. And she was feeling bad, she had a lot of rage and couldn't forget it. And we worked about this and we learned that infidelity is not that bad. First, infidelity happens a lot. Around 50% of people is unfaithful. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty normal, I would yes. say. Second, sex is that important to feel that bad. It's only a natural activity. It can't be that important. You still have legs and arms. You can enjoy life. So she changed her ideas about infidelity, and at the end of the therapy, well, she didn't like what had happened, mm-hmm. but she was fine. She was fine, and she could completely forgive her husband as she wanted.
Mm-hmm. So you believe that we should change our long-held beliefs about many things in order to be happy?
Absolutely. You have to change all your philosophy about many things because many of our ideas are irrational. Those ideas put too much pressure on ourselves and are irrationals. Life is much easier. Mm-hmm. Because we only need few things and we can always be happy with very few things.
Before we started filming, you were telling a story about something that happened to you recently, about a psychologist one of your patients had seen, and this psychologist had told your patient that eating, sleeping, and exercise were the 3 pillars of mental health. Do you agree?
No, I don't. Yes, I had this patient that before seeing me, he went to another psychologist, and the psychologist, told him that he was depressed, my patient, that he needed to work on these three pillars of mental health. Unbelievable. That these three pillars were eating well, sleeping well, and exercising. No? And I was amazed because this is very silly. It's wrong, completely wrong. Look, the key of mental health is here. The key of mental health is thoughts,
Okay.
your brain. This is the main engine. And you have to work in here. In fact, there are many people that eat badly. They are positive, so they feel well mentally.
Sure.
People that don't do any exercise, and they are happy as well. And even if you are very well, mentally well, you don't need to sleep that much. Only 3-4 hours is enough, even. So it doesn't have to be bad. It's unbelievable how even some psychologists don't have a clear view of what is the key of mental health. Unbelievable.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Rafael.
Thank you. Thank you.